Welcome to this year's NFHS Spirit Rules Clinic. You can see that the National Federation is the organization that we belong to at the national level, and they're the ones that write all of our rules for our different sports and for Spirit as well. This is the 100th anniversary of the NFHS, and so you'll be seeing that logo on the rule books and any other information that they put out all year. They'll be branding that 100th anniversary. A couple things about the Federation. Just first of all, their vision is really the same as all of ours are, and that's basically trying to prepare tomorrow's leaders for the next level of life through our programs and really develop positive relationships and healthy participation that we want to go through. So I really believe that cheer and dance is an area that can really promote that vision and fits well into that definition. Their mission, as I mentioned, they do write the rules, the playing rules, and really we do look at trying to minimize risk. So health and safety, they have educational programs, give us administrative support, and then we all try and promote sportsmanship. And again, I think that cheer and dance is an area that really does a good job and can be one of the leaders both in not only your school but in your community and helping to promote that. We do have what we call a rules review committee. This basically is the administrators of all the different sports and activities. And basically what they do is anytime the recommendations from the Spirit Rules Committee comes to make any changes, it goes to this review committee so that one, they can make sure the language is consistent and in each of the different rule books. It's more of a quality control type group. From there, once they approve any of the recommendations that were made by the Spirit Committee, then it goes on to the NFHS Board of Directors and final approval is given there. So you can see all the different rule books that they do write for with 17 different sports, and as we know that Spirit is one of those. They do have an option for ebooks, and also there is an app that you can have the rule book on. Both of these are $6.99. I would recommend, I've used both, I would recommend the app over the ebooks. I just think it's easier to maneuver and manipulate, and you can get something looked up a lot quicker on that. But if you're interested, obviously you'd have to go on and purchase that. And you can see, you go to nfhs.org/erules, and it'll pull it up there, and then depending on the type of phone, you can purchase the correct one. Our rule changes for this year, we will again have Whitney Whitworth as one of our rules interpreters. Whitney is getting back into coaching on the dance side, but she still has gone to our training and so forth. And also this year, Annie Mann, who is from Rollins and is no longer coaching, she is going to also help with that rules interpretation. She's very experienced coach for many years, has followed up, does a lot of judging, and is up on the rules. So I think it's good if we can continue to keep people in our state that are knowledgeable with that helping us. And so at the end, I'll have their contact information for you. So if I confuse you on any of these rules as we go through, please don't call me for clarification. Get a hold of one of those two, and hopefully I won't do too bad a job of going through these rules. We're going to start with definitions. If you remember, your rule book is set up so that the definitions in the rule book are for both cheer and dance. They cover everything. They've gone through, the committee has, and they've added some new ones. And so even though they're basic, there's always a lot of questions on what is and what isn't. So the head spin, the head spring, and the head stand, those are all new definitions. They have not been in the rule book in the past, so they just tried to give a definition so that you would know what that meets, that criteria. I'm not going to read these to you. I would expect you to go into your rules book. And then the non-release stunt, that one has been in the rule book. They just revised it. They've tried to go through and rewrite some of those to hopefully be a little clearer for you on the definition, so that would be one that was revised. This next one with the release transitions and the release pyramid transition, that also is a revised definition, again, to hopefully provide a little more clarity and make it more understandable. On this page, the shoulder stand, that would be a new one, similar to the headstands. And then the suspended roll and the Swedish fall, those are both revised, and hopefully again to provide that clarity. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those, but you should actually go through all the definitions so that you do understand the terminology that's being used as we go through when we get into the rules and the rules test that you'll take. The first actual rule change, if you remember now in the top right corner there, anything that has a 3 dash, that is appropriate for the cheerleading. Anything with a 4 dash, that would be for dance. So this particular one obviously applies to both cheer and dance. And this one, what it talks about is if there is, for religious reasons, someone that has to wear a head covering of some sort, you need to get a hold of us, and basically we'd have to be the ones to approve it. And this is, when I talked about that review committee, this is a rule that now they have put in all of the rule books so that it's consistent all the way through. Our big concern with Spirit, especially if we're doing stunts, would be the safety of not only the participant wearing the head covering, but also the others that might be involved in that stunt. So that's why we would need you to contact us so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page before we would approve that. All right, this is a cheerleading rule only, and that is the stunting personnel. The spotter is required for tosses to single base shoulder stands, and it's required a single base prep level stunts in which the feet of the top person are in the hands of the base. So that spotter is required throughout the whole stunt. This was added into all the required tosses so that there wouldn't be any confusion as to when a spotter was needed. On the brace flips, again, this is a cheer-only one. There must be 3 people involved in the toss and catch of the top person, either as a base or spotter. That has always been the rule, but this is new. The 5G part of that's going to be new. When the catchers are not the original bases, the new catchers are in place when the flip is initiated. They remain close to the original bases and are not part of any other skill. So you still have to have 3, but you could have 3 new ones, you could have 2 new ones and one of the originals, or 1 and 2 or whatever. But they have to meet that criteria that's in that Article 5G in order for it to be legal. Again, this is a cheer one with talking about non-inverted dismounts with no more than a half turn. Basically, they do not want to dismount to an inverted position, and so really it's not a change. They just felt that by rewording this a little bit and emphasizing the non-inverted, it would just clarify that rule. It is not really a new rule. On the inversions, this part is for both cheer and dance. And this one, basically, they indicated that for dance, it's going to allow you to be a little more creative and give you some more options of that. It's basically for freestanding stunts. And you can see what it says there as far as the inversions, where the base of support begins and remains below prep level. At least one person shall maintain contact with the top person until the top person is no longer inverted or his or her hands are on the performing surface. So it does allow at the lower level anything below the prep level. Also in the inversions category, they did add a new exception here. This is actually for both. The slide should have been updated. It is for both cheer and dance, so it should be also Rule 436C. And when it talks about the inversions where the base of support begins and or passes through the prep level, requires at least 2 people on the performing surface to be in a position to protect the head and neck of the top person. All of that definition there in 6C is the same as it has been. The exceptions is at the bottom when it says a fold over that begins at or below prep level and does not stop in an extended position is allowed. When the catchers are not the original bases, the new bases, just like we talked about before, you can change bases, but they have to be remain close and original bases and not be part of any other skill. And that was something that they emphasized. You can't be doing any other type of skill. You have to be the base. And they talked about having one-hand contact for all suspended rolls. You need to have at least one hand in contact with the floor at all times. On release transitions, again, this is only for cheer. And again, we have that same rule that we've talked about. Their emphasis on this rule with the bases was only for pyramids and brace release to another spotter. It's not for a freestanding release. And this part I won't understand, but going from a tick-tock to other bases, that would not be legal. So if you have questions on that one, that's probably a good question for Whitney and Annie. On the dismounts, this is for both, again, cheer and dance. This is not a new rule. It was just reorganized. They feel that it reads better, and it talks about for dismounts what needs to happen there in both A and B. So I would expect you to look that up and make sure you're familiar with that, because I'm sure that will be on your test. Tumbling with props, this is for dance only. They did add an exception there, holding props, if they are not abrasive hard, you would be able to keep those in your hands as long as you're not in a stunt of any kind. So the example they used is scarves. Possibly you could keep scarves in your hand as you go through a airborne or non-airborne tumbling skill. That would be okay. Okay, as far as the tumbling, you do have to have at least one hand in contact with the floor at all times. So if you have headstands, head spins, or head springs, in which the hands are not used for support, then that is illegal and is prohibited. So you would again have to keep at least one hand, even if you were doing a head spin. At least one hand would have to stay in contact with the performing surface. So those are our rules and the rule changes. They do have 3 points of emphasis that we talked about. The first one is making sure again that we're on proper surfaces, and the surface area that we're utilizing is legal, and this is for both practice and performance. Sometimes I know that you might not get top priority, and so you get put in a place that might have a cement floor and those types of things. We just got to make sure we're using the proper padding. All 3 of these points of emphasis are going to be to help minimize risk and reduce injury. The second one talks about cradle dismounts. One of the things that the Federation does is they have a national survey that they do, and then they keep track of all injuries of everything in all the different sports. And so in that injury report, the #1 cause of concussions in cheer and dance is the cradle dismounts. And so it's important that we're, 1, teaching the proper technique, 2, that we have the spotters in the correct positions, and 3, that we're teaching the progressions and not trying to advance too quickly and get into stunts that your team's not ready for, and so that ends up increasing the chance of injury instead of reducing that risk. And then the last one, where the majority of your concussions do come from, is with a contact injury, and so that can be, elbow to the head as you're coming down from a stunt, head to head, those types of contacts. That's the #1 cause of the concussion. So again, anything we can do to minimize risk and make sure that we're using and teaching those proper techniques is what we're trying to emphasize with those points of emphasis. I did want to talk a little bit about game day. We are going to, this year at our state spirit competition, have a game day. We had the last spring at the University of Wyoming. We did, Matthew was nice enough to put on a clinic for us there, and there were several that were able to make it. I know not all of you could make it, but it will replace the non-stunt category at our state spirit. We believe this is going to get us back to what the roots of cheerleading are about. It should open up more opportunities for more teams, because it isn't based off of how good of stunners you are and the skill levels on that. It's based more on actual cheerleading and the precision of which you do that and those types of things. So all of the information we already have posted on our website, which is WHSAA.org, and go to Rule 8.0.54, and it's number 7 on there, and you'll see it's all highlighted. That has the basic information. Now, you should also really, when you go to the handbook looking for that, go through the rest of those rules and regulations that we have in there for the Spirit. It's all under that Rule 8.0, and make sure you are familiar with that. University of Wyoming is going to have a competition. It's on the Saturday of our state football championships on campus there, and Matthew will be getting more information out on that. We really won't have anything to do with that other than we'll help provide information and get that out. Your Coaches Association, if you haven't joined that, I would encourage you to do that. I think they've done a good job of trying to increase the communication level around the state, since a lot of you are not in the schools, and they have a Facebook page and some things that they get information out on. And a lot of times I do communicate with Julie, who is the current president, and she will send that, and she communicates with me. I will also send stuff to your activities directors, but again, sometimes with not being in the building, that doesn't always get transmitted. So we're excited about game day. We think it's going to be a good addition to our State Spirit competition. I know there's going to be a little bit of apprehension, but just like when we first started, I think once we get this going, it really has the potential to grow our event, and that's what we're looking at by making the move at this time. I did want to talk about our Learning Center at the national level. It's the website there is nfhslearn.com. Anybody that is a cheer or dance coach that is going to do any type of stunting at all, you have to be ACCA certified. That's AACCA, and there is a class on that website. If you go to that website, you find the ACCA certification class, and that certification is good for 4 years. And we have a link that we send our ADs to make sure that their coaches are certified. So make sure that you get on that. There's also several other classes on there. There's a free concussion course on there if you haven't taken that, with the potential of concussions. We did have our concussion insurance last year, and we did have some claims in the cheer and dance with concussions that were covered under our insurance. So make sure that you are familiar with that. If you haven't taken that class, I would recommend it. It's only about 20 minutes or so. They also have a concussion for students class. That's a separate one. It is also free. I would encourage you to look at having your students take that so they do understand if they do get injured, making sure they report and some of those types of things instead of trying to hide a concussion. Our NFHS network, we are going to go ahead and video stream again this year. We do have more and more of our schools that have joined the school broadcast program, so I would encourage them, if you are one of those schools, encourage your school to go ahead and also stream, if they're streaming the game, to stream your halftime performances and those types of things so it can get out. And you will also, all of those are archived, so you would have access to those basically forever. One of the things the network has done is it's now, the last couple of years, you can also view it on all mobile devices. And I know when I'm traveling around and I might be at one state event, I get on my phone and I can watch another state event and make sure that it's going okay and those types of things. So just wanted you to be aware that that would be something we would be doing again. In order for you to get credit for the fact that you actually watch this, here's what you need to do. So all head coaches and officials are required to view the rules video and then complete the Google document. Okay, if you're an assistant coach and you've watched this, that's fine. You do not need to complete that document. But all head coaches, that is a requirement. And then click on the link in the description of the video, and the link then is also available on our website, again, WHSAA.org. So you'll just enter your name, choose official or head coach, and then that will come to us, and we'll be able to quit bugging your activities director that says you don't have that done. Also, head coaches, as a reminder, we do have a test that you have to take before you can take or perform at any halftimes or any of your events. So it's a 50-question cheer test, and there's a separate 50-question dance test. So it's on our website already. I would get on there, encourage you to get that done so that we're not coming back and chasing you down, because the penalties are fairly stiff. If you do that, you do risk the chance of not being eligible to be in our State Spirit competition, and That's the last thing we want to do, is eliminate your team because you didn't follow through with something you were supposed to do. As I mentioned at the start, that Whitney and Annie will be our rules interpreters for you. There is their websites, or excuse me, their emails for both of them. So please feel free to contact them on any of these new rule changes that we have. They have both viewed the National Rules Interpretation meeting that was put on this summer, and they would be able to answer those a lot better than me. So don't call me with any of the TikTok questions. With that, I would like to say thank you for viewing this. We wish all of you the best of luck, and let's have a good, positive year. Thank you.